6. We have Catherine, Diane, myself, Renee, Carl, and Jeff are both absent this evening. And we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our wonderful Orchard Starting Arts Group. I'll push the button.
Chanel's got it.
There you go.
Please stand up for the pledge.
Please put your hand on your heart and please get ready to salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Now that you're sitting, we would like to invite you to our show, The Little Mermaid, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
What time is it?
6:15 on Thursday and Friday, 1 o'clock on Saturday, and 4 o'clock on Saturday. We have 2 casts, so different people are in different. We have 2 8th graders and a 7th grader? 5th grader. And then we've got another 8th grader who's working with me with the little kids because we have kinder through 2nd graders. So she's my assistant, one of my assistant director. And we have an alumni who came back because she just can't stay away to help out backstage too. So we actually have a lot of alumni this year helping backstage. So it's really exciting. We have a lot of crew on deck. So hope you guys can make it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, do I have that? Paper. Okay. And then we're going to move on to item number 3 of the agenda, the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion by Catherine and a second by Diane. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any comments on closed session? We're going to move into closed session. We have 4 items tonight in closed session. Probably about, ours will take about 10 minutes.
30 minutes.
We'll probably be about 30 minutes, maybe 45 at the max, but we'll try to make it as short as possible, and we will be back. Stuff. I just leave my stuff.
It's cold. I'm gonna get
It's cold. We're not sitting outside. No, thank God. All right, we are back. Sorry, it took a little bit longer than we thought. We have nothing to report, and we are going to move on to item number 5, communications, OTA.
We do have
Ms.
this.
Aaron.
What time is it? 6:35.
Be terrible, but
Please don't.
I'm not gonna fall. It's my day. It's the day of the teacher.
Okay, it's on. Right, I don't have a lot to comment on during the OTA time tonight. I did just want to briefly mention that this week at Orchard, we're celebrating staff appreciation or teacher appreciation. And today is actually Teacher Appreciation Day. It's today. So I just wanted to say that I would hope that everybody, along with me, would just take a moment to appreciate the teachers that we have here at Orchard School. Having been, I'm just finishing my 24th year here, and what I can say is that I have always felt proud. I have always felt welcome. I have always felt like I'm growing as an educator, and it's because of my colleagues. So I always have felt really blessed to be here and to be a teacher here. So but that's my OTA comment tonight. Well, thank you.
We do not have any public comments.
And we do not have any public comments, so moving on to consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion by Diane, a second by Catherine. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0. And now we'll move on to our bond campaign. Jeff, you want to introduce this item?
Great, absolutely. So we have two guests tonight. We asked them to come up to the podium and join us as we jump into it. We have Connell Lind, who's our campaign consultant, and we have Miguel Rodriguez, who's our financial consultant, as we start talking about our bond measure. And so as the board is considering putting a measure on the upcoming ballot, as we talked about, before the board takes action, we're allowed to talk about the importance of what it means for our school district, what it means for our students, our staff. Obviously, we have work going on right now tied to the bond with our field. We have shade structure coming up. But beyond those two things, we talked about the facility master plan that we have as a district. And there's a number of items on there, and I think a lot of districts sit here, and both these gentlemen have helped out a lot of districts in passing measures and getting measures put on the ballot. We're not a district that's putting on frivolous items or putting anything on the ballot that would even be considered a dream scenario. We are really focused on what our students and staff need to be successful. And I think that's the important part of our facility master plan. And so tonight we have a short presentation for the board regarding an upcoming bond measure. Both of our gentlemen tonight will be able to share on it. And the bigger part of this is it allows the board opportunity to ask any questions. What we would hope is to bring back a bond resolution for the board to consider in a first draft in June, and then we would bring it back at one of our other meetings in June for final approval if the board would like to place it on the ballot for November of this year. And so with that, I'll open up the presentation and turn it over to the two of you.
Good evening, board members. Again, Miguel Rodriguez, bond consultant with the school district. As the superintendent mentioned, the district has undertaken a lot of work to invest in its school facilities. And it's been now about 23 years since the last bond was approved by the community that would allow the district to find the dollars to conduct its projects and various improvements. And so since then, there's been a great deal of change in terms of the needs of the district. And the district has been very deliberate, very intentional of when it's accessed those dollars, how it's spent those dollars, and when it's conducted its improvements. As the superintendent mentioned, most recently, you've done a master facility plan. And through the course of that, a lot of the work involved is identifying the needs and then projecting forward through time and seeing how it is that you can address some of those needs, as well as make allowances for some of the stuff that we cannot foresee. And so I think where we find ourselves today is that as we look at the district's financial picture, particularly its tax base, its existing bond programs, we find that there is an opportunity going forward to be able to get additional dollars to continue to invest in the facilities and do so in a manner that stays with what the district has achieved in the past, which is maintaining debt burden low for the community, and so too, doing so in a way that continues to save taxpayers' dollars, right? And so, as the superintendent mentioned, today we're going to review some of the information that we have already presented to you in the past, but highlighting some of the key aspects and features of the bond program and how we can get those dollars and save taxpayers' dollars. And Connell here will review some of the steps that you may undertake to place a bond measure in front of the community in November if you so choose to. Okay? With that, just a quick glimpse here of the current outstanding debt of the district. You find that in the past, the district voters have approved 3 bond measures. And one of those 3 bond measures has been repaid. And in the very near future, an additional bond measure will be fully repaid. And so specifically, we're referring to the 2000 election bonds, and we're referring to the 2001 election bonds. Of those two, the 2000 election bonds will be repaid, and what we find is that if you look at the chart on the right, the blue area is represented by one of those elections, and that the debt service related to that bond election will go away or conclude, which means that the tax base will allow additional revenues to become available to fund future projects, and doing so in a way that continues to allow the district to keep tax rates down. So specifically, we anticipate that once the 2000 election bonds are fully repaid, about a $34 tax rate would decrease, and that's something that taxpayers would obviously benefit from. Okay. If we look at the district's tax rates today in comparison to your neighboring school districts, we find that we are at the very low, we're at the bottom of tax rates being paid. And so specifically, we carry a total combined tax rate of about $41. And so if you look at the average tax rate countywide for all elementary school districts, the average is just over $66. So we're below average. But considering some of our neighbors here, if you see that some of the other districts that are at the absolute lowest, you see districts like Sunnyvale, for example, that just very most recently in March passed a bond election. And then you see other districts like Mountain View and Weissman that have since consolidated and also carry different debt. If you account for their debt, you'll find that those districts would actually move up along the scale, which would bring us again to some of the lowest level. And more so, taking into consideration what we know to occur in the very near future, as the old bonds are repaid, that would bring us to the absolute lowest, if not very near the bottom of school districts in your area. And so I think that although while it shows a very nice picture and certainly something that our community would appreciate, I think from your perspective, it also begs the question whether we are accessing our available resources in a way to be able to continue to fund our projects and our school facilities going forward. Okay, so it creates an opportunity, and I think that in this case, it's something that's very positive, again, showing that low tax burden for our community. And so as we think about any potential future funding, we look at the tax base of the district, or rather the assessed valuation. And so what we find is that the district's assessed valuation, or its tax base, has grown very, very robust over the course of the last 12 years or so. And so more recently, for this current fiscal year, 2024, our tax base has grown to $15.3 billion. And on average, over the course of the last 20 years, that means that it's grown at about just over 5% in every year. And so that allows the district to be able to access additional dollars, and projecting, what may become available in the future, we look to this gauge of bonding capacity. And so bonding capacity is what the state says to school districts, elementary school districts, in kind of giving you a gauge of how much debt you can carry from bond sources. And so while the state mentions to the states that you would be limited to total bonding capacity of 1.25% of your total assessed value, currently we're underutilizing that. So we have roughly about 80% of our total bonding capacity that's available, right? In real dollars and cents, that translates to $154 million that are available to the district today, based on that debt limit or based on that bonding capacity, which does not necessarily mean that we're going to go out and spend those dollars, or that that they are fully available. It means that that's what are what we can afford, given the different metrics, our assessed valuation and the state debt limit of 1.25%. And so $154 million available, but of course we recognize that we're significantly under in terms of what we are carrying currently. And so currently the amount of debt that's outstanding is only $37 million. And based on future growth, we know that we're going to repay our old debt, and that our assessed value will continue to grow if trends continue. And so that bonding capacity is scheduled to increase substantially in the very near future. So if you look at a 3-year outlook, that bonding capacity will grow to over 220 million, of which we expect about 176 million to become available. Again, that's the product of us quickly repaying our old debt and our assessed value continuing to grow. So it just means, again, that we can afford more borrowing, which means additional funding potentially for our facilities improvements. So in the event that the district wanted to go out and request the community for additional support for a new bond program, we find again that the district's bond characteristics are very supportive. In this case, if we looked at a potential November 2024 bond election, we would be able to generate an estimated $55 million to fund our project needs that had been identified through the course of the master plan, as well as making additional allowances for some of the unforeseen. We are looking, based on our analysis, we're seeing that the cost of funding $55 million would require just over $16 of tax rate per every 100,000 of assessed value. And so if you may recall, in that very first slide, we had estimated that the tax rate that will decrease as a result of the old bonds being repaid is $34. That means that we would essentially only extend about half of that. So we would get additional bond proceeds, extend half of that tax rate that's going away, continue to levy $16, my apologies, and then allowing us to get those $55 million in additional funding. Another key point here is that the way we would structure these bonds is in a very in a manner that would reduce how long we have to repay them over time. And so typically when a school district goes out and sells bonds, kind of like a mortgage, you would repay them over a course of 25 to 30 years. For this program, because of the large tax base that we have and because of the low tax rate that we have, we're able to repay the bonds faster. And so in this case, we're looking at borrowing terms of 10 to 14 years, which allows the district to save substantially in terms of the cost of financing. So where typically a bond program would be paid back maybe about 1.8 times the borrowing amount. in this case, we're looking at a payback or a repayment ratio, they refer to it, of 1.3 to 1. What that means essentially is that the type of bond program here, and in comparison, is saving the district's taxpayers somewhere in the ballpark between $25 to $30 million over the entire repayment stream. And so that's how we're looking to structure it, and that's how we're figuring that, through the shortened borrowing terms and the low tax rate, that over the course of the financing period, we can continue, again, to save taxpayers' dollars.
How much did we save them, you said?
About $25 to $30 million in borrowing costs.
Within 10 to 14 years?
Per bond, correct. Yes. Instead of borrowing 25 to 30 years. Per bond, correct. My apologies, the borrowing term is 10 to 14 years per bond, but the total savings is through the course of the entire program. And so in this case, it's for the entire $55 million, okay? And so you may recall, just kind of like part of the last bond election, where the district received voter authorization for $40 million. You didn't sell all the $40 million at once. You only sold in small increments depending on your project needs. And so too, in this case, you wouldn't sell all the $55 million at once. You would only sell what you needed, and then that'll allow you to continue to keep tax rates down and the borrowing costs down as well.
What is the time frame on that? The time frame, how long does it take that you can generate that money?
The entire bond program is estimated to be fully sold within 10 years. But again, this is, for us, it's only a financial or an economic sort of projection. Ultimately, the board decides when you sell and how much you sell.
Yeah.
And so that could be extended for as long as you need, or potentially reduce if you wanted to go out there and complete more projects sooner.
I would just say that was a big part when we were talking, Miguel and Connell and Luis and I, after going through the facility master plan, is we wanted to have that ultimate flexibility. We know there's some expensive projects, and we talked about the TK and Kinder building up front. When you're obviously putting a new building in, that costs a lot more. And so we took all those things into account when we were talking to Miguel and Connell about how to structure it, but also how to be good stewards of our finances, and certainly we want to be good community members. We know the board, that's important to the board. And so when you start thinking about, a $30+ tax rate coming off and adding an 18 on, there is a huge benefit to the community, but there's certainly a huge benefit to our school district as well and our students that go here. So we think it is structured in a way that kind of honors everything that we've talked about, but also honors what we need going forward, especially as a small school district.
Good evening, board members. And let me acknowledge the teachers. Happy Teacher Appreciation Day. Or is it week? Week or day?
Today, but today is the actual teacher.
The day, okay. Well, I appreciate the fact that teachers have really made me look good with school districts over the years. So I do appreciate teachers and their participation in the bond campaigns and parcel taxes. So my name's Connell Lynn, and I've worked with school districts for about 35 years just doing bonds and parcel taxes. So I just want to kind of go over the process of calling an election and what's in store for you. So as we see up here, the board takes a resolution, the board eventually passes a resolution. And in that resolution, it has the authorization amount. So that's really the key part of what you're asking the voters, is to approve an authorization amount. Right now, we're talking about $55 million. So you'd be asking authorization for the community to let you borrow that $55 million. In the resolution, there has to be a project list, so you need to list the projects that you're going to plan to do. You can't do anything that's not listed in the project, so with the resolution that outlines the TK, whatever you want to do with it. So that's all outlined specifically in the resolution itself. With the resolution, there's also a tax rate estimate. So that was what Miguel was just going over to support a $55 million bond. We were looking at a tax rate of about $16 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. So it's not market value, whatever the homes are assessed at. So again, that's half of what they're paying right now with the bond that is expiring, but the $16 tax rate. There's also, I'm going to skip over the 75-word question. There's also accountability and oversight in the resolution. So the resolution you have to appoint an oversight committee to monitor all the bonds. There has to be annual audits. So all these things are included in the resolution. And then the 75-word question is the ballot question is actually what you vote on the ballot. So all those things that were just listed in the resolution have to be summarized into a question that can't exceed 75 words. So it's a kind of a complicated question because it has to have a tax rate, it has to have the bond authorization amount, has the repayment schedule in it. So with 75 words, you really have 75 words. The name of the district counts as one word. So when you go count. So you get 3 words there out of yeah. So it's a really tricky, it's not tricky, it's just, you just need to really be concise with your words, and it has to be a question. So it's kind of like a run-on sentence. It's like your worst run-on sentence ever, but anyway. But that's what people actually get to vote on. It has to be a question. So the question is basically, shall the district be authorized to issue bonds in this amount? And you have to put that in. Yeah. So put as much facts as you can in 75 words. So it's a summary. The crux of it is really in the project list. So all that, the voters get the entire project list in the ballot booklet, but not everybody reads the entire ballot booklet. A lot of people only read what is, the yes/no question on the ballot. So you want to do your best job to summarize it, but with limited amount of words. So you kind of emphasize your positives, I guess. Accentuate the positives. So from there, if the board calls the election, this is the timeline that we wanted to do. So it's always good that there's a meeting in June so that the board could review a resolution. You'd be able to approve the resolution at the next meeting, but that way you'd have a chance to read through the thing. It's not that complicated, but it's long, and it's something the district should be familiar with. You'd be familiar with the tax rates that you're asking and things like that. So it's a good chance to review it. That you could vote to place it on the ballot in June. The last day to file is August 9th, so the board has to take action sometime before August 9th. But we're aiming to do it in June to avoid the summer schedules. So August 9th is the last day where you can file with a resolution with the county. You don't have to wait till August 9th, but that's the deadline for all elections, for board elections, measures, everything. After that, there'll be a ballot arguments due, and so that's really the first document that the district can write to defend itself. Once the district calls the election, you can't advocate for the passage of the bond measure through the schools. You can't say vote yes, but you are allowed through the resolution to submit a ballot argument in favor, which is obviously an advocacy statement. So that's like the one statement that the district can put out for advocating. So that is, again, it's 300 words. You can't exceed 300 words. And it's your best statement. And then you can have 5 people from the community can sign that with titles. So they could be registered voters in the district, or they represent a bona fide organization within the district. So those are the requirements there. If there is an argument against, and in this county, unfortunately, there's arguments against the bond measures. There's a taxpayer group out of Gilroy that files arguments, basically the identical argument against every bond in the county. So I'm assuming there would be an argument against.
What are they called?
The Silicon Taxpayers Association. But it's a guy based out of Gilroy. But they do file arguments against.
So if we do this, we can expect them
to file an argument against.
Is that like almost for sure or for sure?
It's been, I've been working with Fremont and Sunnyvale and Cupertino, and it's a guarantee with all of those. So it's not everyone, but I haven't seen them miss anybody yet. So, and it's basically the same argument. They changed the name of the school district, but there's just kind of an anti-tax.
We just mail it out to every single one.
So, yeah. So anyway, so it gives you the opportunity to respond to that if you need to do that. So you can have an argument in favor, and then if there's an argument against, if there's no argument against, then it just stops there. There's no need for a rebuttal. But typically there has been. And again, that's 5 more people to sign, and 250 words is your limit there. There's less requirements on the rebuttal signers. Like, there's real requirements with it. For the ballot argument, you have to be a registered voter or represent a bona fide organization. There's not the same requirements on the ballot argument, the rebuttal. It's still pushed to use registered voters in the district or something. It doesn't make sense to really go outside, but the rules are slightly different. In October 7th, so everybody is vote by mail at this point now. So there's no polling places that'll be open. There'll be voting centers, but basically October 7th is when people start getting their ballots. So instead of one election day, it's really 29 days for elections in these things. So you really want to push people beginning October 7th when the ballots go out, because people start voting then. Now, typically, people hold on to their ballots. Most people vote late. They don't vote early. You usually get the real hardcore people that turn the ballots around right away, but it's about 10% of your voters. Typically, it's the last couple days that people are just mailing the ballots back in. And usually you have more votes counted after the election than before. October 21st, last day to register for this, officially for this. And then vote centers open beginning October 25th, and then they open additional ones beginning the weekend before the election, and then the election day is November 5th. So that's really, those are all the legal deadlines that you're looking at. And that's really about it. So, be happy to answer any questions about the process. Again, I pointed earlier, the district, once the district places a measure on the ballot, you can inform, but you can't advocate. But it's something that's very important. So with every district, you can put together a fact sheet. You can provide information to your parents, to your students, to your teachers, employees, everything. You want to make sure that people are aware and make sure people vote. You can't necessarily take a position as, at the schools. On your own time, you can obviously promote the passage of it, but you could say vote on it, but not how.
I can't say vote for this, that's true. So vote.
Right.
Just a reminder, can you put out like a massive?
Yes, yes.
And you can send letters?
Yeah, you typically with school, and every school district is really different. What I try to do is have a one-page fact sheet that can be translated into whatever languages. It's a one-page, and it just goes over the facts of and that is something that's available. Once the legal counsel approves it, that could be at the schools. It could be sent out. It could be sent out through newsletters. It could be sitting on at the front desk of the school. It can be used for everything. So you can't advocate, but you can inform. And it's really, the bullet points and what you're going to do is pretty straightforward. You don't have to advocate for it. These are what, if this measure is passed, this is what it's going to do. It's going to fix roofs, or it's going to build the, TK wing.
I don't think her mic's on. Hey, I'm sorry.
Correct. Yes.
That's a lot of money.
Yes. Yeah, it's completely up to the board, the authorization amount, and then that has to be with the tax rate.
Would it be risky because it will not get approved? Because if this is larger amount of
I don't think so.
Last time we had like 40 millions, and it was for, I can't remember how many years was that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not as concerned about that with I'm more concerned about the tax rate. And with yours, I mean, you're in really a really great position where
So
the
that-
one is going off and even this one going on. I've seen districts, there was a district in the East Bay where they're doing what they were calling a tax rate extension or not raising current tax rates. But what they were doing was they were pushing out their debt 10, 14 years down the road. So they weren't going to raise taxes, but they're still going to borrow money. And so just what Miguel was talking about, saving you money, this is the opposite. It was like the worst
Yeah.
case scenario. So you're not looking at anything like that. You're really in outstanding financial shape. I worked with Sunnyvale on their recent bond in March, and it was $214 million. And the last one before that was $100 million. So
Yeah, but I don't know how big of the school that is.
they have increased. Yeah, there's 10 schools there. It's
we are-
different, but my point was they went from 100 million to 200 million. So going from
And that
40
is-
to 55 is not.
And that is Sunnyvale.
Yes.
This is, this area, people, I mean, Sunnyvale, have you looked at to buy a Sunnyvale house? Good luck with that.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't, I only meant the total amount of the bonds increasing, where you went from 40 million, you'd be going to 55. That's not a huge, the cost of school construction over the last years has
Yeah.
really gone
Okay,
through the roof.
thank
So,
you.
but ultimately, it is the board's decisions, and even, whether it's 55 or not, and then it's also the board's decision of when to issue those bonds. It's not like you get $55 million the day after the election. The board
Okay.
needs to decide when they're going to issue those bonds, because you have to spend the money down. You can't just issue the bonds and then hold on to it. It has to be spent within a certain amount of, I think, 2 years or
3 years.
3 years. So it's not like you can just hold on to the money. So the board has ultimate control over that, as well as the tax rates. You're not even close to the legal limit. So the history of the bonds is Prop 39 changed. Bonds used to require a 2/3 majority to pass until 2000. And in 2000, California voters passed Prop 39, which allowed bonds to pass at 55% versus 2/3. But it requires tax rates stay below $30 per 100,000 for an elementary district. It requires oversight. It requires the accountability measures that come with that. So
So I do have a question. So you brought up the oversight thing. Is mine not up? Sorry, no, mine's not on now. You brought up the oversight thing, and we have a huge problem with that. We don't have, getting people to be on an oversight committee. So if we don't have that oversight committee, does it put us in jeopardy of not having our bonds?
I think by law you have, and this is more of a legal, and I'm not attorney, but you do have to appoint an oversight committee. So you will have to.
So we have gone out to legal about this too, because we know it's hard. We do have 3 members right now, and so Luis is actually going to, when he's not in jury duty, is going to bring back a slate of candidates here for the board to approve.
Oh, he does have people now.
So we have 3 members. We do need more members, so definitely anyone watching tonight, if you would like to be on our committee, we'd love to have you. But we have to, one of the things that our auditors talked about is we have to, in good faith, go out all the time to try and increase membership. And so the one thing, we have done that, we talk about it with parents, we encourage them to join. We've done surveys, we've done forms for people to fill out. This time we did get 3, and we're hoping to get more by putting it out again. And so that was the best advice we actually got from our legal counsel too, is you need to still make a prudent effort all the time to increase membership.
Perfect. I don't have anything else. I've talked to both of them, so.
Yeah, oh, you
I'm
talked to
good.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you guys so
Thank you.
much. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like my microphone's really loud.
So we'll move on to our next item. We're going to approve the LCAP. We'll turn it over to you again.
Perfect. This is very similar to the one we provided the board in March. We obviously have our teaching and learning item. We have routine budget updates from Luis. What this includes is just the tables of our expenditures to date. And so let me scroll down to it. This is the final time you're going to see this particular document, because the next time you see a draft of our LCAP, It's going to be of our new LCAP. We have new goals we're establishing, new metrics we're establishing, new actions we're establishing. But before we can roll over to that, we owe the board an update on what our expenditures are to date and what our current plan is. And so this document here has been updated by Luis. We have our goals in here. We have our we have our goal number 1. We have our metrics that we're using for it and what our desired outcome is by 23-24. And so what the board approves tonight is that you have been provided the update for it, and the board also recognizes that beginning here in June, you're going to be approving a new 3-year LCAP plan.
So this is the same thing we went through at the last meeting?
It is, it's just updated.
Okay.
There's no significant differences. So it's similar to, the question was, it's similar to what you saw in March. There's been no real significant changes.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yep, we need a motion and a second on this one. I'm happy to make a motion to approve the LCAP annual report.
Second? Yeah.
Jeff, I'm having a hard time hearing you, but don't we usually have someone discuss this a little more?
We discussed it at the March
Oh, you
meeting.
did? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what you said, okay.
But if you have questions, go
Yeah,
ahead and ask.
we talked
I
about it.
actually, I'm, okay. What am I gonna say, no?
No, I mean, ask your questions if you have them, please.
No, okay. This thing is so hard to get this to work.
I know you need a mouse.
So what are the changes that you made from last year to this year?
So the changes from last year to this year are minimal because it's the 3rd year of the 3-year LCAP cycle. The biggest changes are coming, what you're going to see in June of this year. You will see new goals this year. You're going to definitely see new actions and metrics coming up when you see the new LCAP in June. So this is the final time of seeing our 3-year LCAP, and then the new 1st year starts up. So not a lot of changes at this time.
Okay.
Do you have more questions?
Oh, no. Okay,
So-
so look at me.
No, you're fine. Motion by
actually-
Renee,
Second.
second by Diana.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. We're going to go on to our teaching and learning item.
Perfect. All right, so we do have some guests with us tonight. We have Katie Hale and Kim Bowie joining us tonight. One of the things that we wanted to provide an update, there are things that are board's decisions, there's things that are school sites decisions. If we're going to make a change at a school site level that impacts students, we do feel like it is important for the board to recognize any changes that we make. What I will pass on is, if you look to the left here on this one, and we'll get the other one up, it's a different presentation. Chanel, there's a slide deck that was shared later than what we posted, so if you would like to just put up the PDF that is currently on the board page, and then we'll focus on the hybrid one here. It's essentially the same information. But big picture wise, we had 197 middle school students that took a survey. Majority of the students felt very similar to what Ms. Hale and Ms. Bowie are going to talk about tonight, but there's certainly no one better to talk about this change in schedule than our middle school teacher. So I'm going to turn it over to them and then kind of summarize it at the end. So thank you.
I'm very excited about this mic. This is nice.
Take a picture of you using it?
No, but thank you. So this is our 3rd year following the full block schedule, and we actually started it when we were remote from COVID, and then we decided that we would continue and see how it works in person when we return to campus. Before COVID, the teachers really started noticing and talking more and more that it had become increasingly difficult to teach the same material as we used to in those 52-minute class periods. So we thought for sure longer time would have to be better. The greatest benefit of block scheduling is that you have a much longer uninterrupted period of time to complete longer assignments or projects like in art or assessments and labs. The science teachers really like having the longer periods to do a full lab because it takes a long time to set up and whatever. So we found, though, that longer is not always better.
So currently, if a student misses one block day, it's as if they miss 2 lessons. Now, this will minimize effects by limiting the block days to only 2 per week. So we've noticed our most at-risk students have difficulty with longer periods, with referrals increasing later in the block periods and throughout the week. Now, best practice emphasizes the importance of explicitly building background knowledge and/or front-loading essential skills, concepts, and vocabulary. Both can be true, and both can still benefit from a hybrid model, allowing for longer periods such as Monday, Tuesday, at the start of the week when students and staff are fresh, and then 3 shorter consecutive encounters to practice skills, finish tasks, and assessments.
Does that make sense? Yeah? So we're not giving it up entirely. We want to create a hybrid. We also think that it's important that with this model, the hybrid schedule, it guarantees teachers 4 prep periods a week as opposed to 3. And so having the really long prep period sometimes is really nice and sometimes not so much. Sometimes having more shorter ones is actually a lot better for planning and adapting, especially for adapting lessons as you change through the week. Like you can read the students and what you need to change, and then you've got a prep period where you can get that new lesson ready. This model is also closer to what the kids will follow next year at Independence, and we think maybe even at Piedmont, no? But at Independence, this is more similar than what we were doing before, and so we think that that will create a smoother transition. We'd like to pilot this hybrid model for a year, and then we should be able to make an evidence-based decision on which model is truly the best for our entire population. We think it's a good compromise that makes sense for next steps, and one that will be easier to change in the future, one way or the other, if we think this needs to be tweaked more. And then it won't be too drastic of a change. We don't want to fully give up, but we also can't completely go back to the shortened schedule.
I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart idea.
I would just add, as Katie talked about, teachers get the prep 4 days a week. Students are going to see their teachers 4 out of 5 days, which is something that they don't have right now. And the fact that the concept's not lost on the benefits of the longer days, that's still going to be there. From a scheduling standpoint, it doesn't change our start and end times. It doesn't change our instructional minutes. It doesn't change the electives that our students get to take. We did get feedback from the 197 middle school students that took the survey of what electives they desire for next year. We're always trying to look at ways to improve that, to increase access to it. Art and music did come as the top 2 electives that students still want to take. And then there was a number of things that emerged as 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to figure out if there's ways for us to incorporate that into our schedule as well. So with that, do you have any questions? This is an information item. That doesn't require action from the board, but as I shared, it was really important for the board to know about the change that we're talking about here and obviously hear from our teachers as to why. And the last thing I would just add, and I know Katie and Kim, you talked about it, middle school as a whole is supportive of this change. I think it's important to say, too.
Yeah, and it took a while to get there. I was one of the final straws to fall because I didn't want to give up on it. Because in my heart, I feel like with the right crafting of the time that you can really get a lot out of it. It's very difficult for kids this age to sustain focus for a really long period of time. And it's hard to craft that perfect lesson every single time. And when they missing 2 lessons worth is just too hard. Yeah.
I just want to say I think it's great that you guys got creative and didn't give up on it, and you found a way to support our at-risk students, because those are our most vulnerable students who need the support, and you found a way to do that for them. So you put all of our students at their needs in the forefront, and so kudos to all of you for coming up with an idea to make it work. Because I like the block schedule, but I also like seeing that and what you guys just said, I was like, that's brilliant. Like, at the end of the week, they're so exhausted. Get them shorter schedule. I mean, kudos. I think, I pray that it works for you guys next year because it's
It's
great,
worth a try.
I think it's worth an
it's
amazing
definitely
try.
worth a try.
So,
And then we'll know.
yes.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Great job thinking outside the box.
Research.
Thank you. And that was the first time I think Ms. Bowie actually presented on behalf of the school site, isn't it? As a newer teacher, maybe? So thank you, Kim. Yeah,
You guys
great
did
job, Kim.
awesome. Our next topic is our discuss facility master plan.
This is just a very brief update without Luis here tonight. But just to go through it, you heard a little bit about the update on our field project. We've been sharing it. Certainly you can see it. You should walk out, take a look at it. It's pretty incredible. I know, as Mr. Gilbert was just joking, you kind of just looks like they're playing with dirt sometimes. But the reality is there's a ton of work that's happening every single day. Chanel and I have weekly meetings with them on Monday where we walk the field, walk the project. I know they're going to increase in time as we go over it, but we meet in their trailer and then we walk the project to see what's going on. Plus, it allows us to give feedback on what we need or anything that's happening, and it gives them an opportunity to share any needs that they have with us. So that's been going really well. The shade structure has been hit a slight delay with the contract again. And so we're working with MBARC. We're working to schedule a meeting with them. We still have the goal of the timeline in place, but we're just working with them on some terms within the contract that they're trying to adjust, which they actually can't adjust because it was a public bid. And so I know it's been slow. We're working through that with them, but we still hope to have it in the same timeline that we shared before. And then just the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee update. We have a future approval coming. What we're hoping to do is to bring a full slate forward for approval. When Luis and I spoke last week, we're going to bring the members that we have. So we at least have 3 members identified, again, working towards that progress, and hopefully looking for other members to join so that we can have the full slate of 7. But we figured it was better to start with 3 that the board can acknowledge and hopefully approve. Obviously, that's the board's discretion with it. But then every time we add somebody, we can bring back single members until we hit 7. So that's going to be the switch in our approach. Chanel, anything else we need to hit on with the board for facilities right now? Okay. Any questions that the board has?
Can the oversight committee? No, I shut it off because it was given back. Can the oversight committee start with those 3 members and then add as it goes on, and then maybe they can encourage, like, go out and help? That could be part of their task to find more.
That's a good question. So we can start sharing information with them. We can
Okay.
give them everything related to the projects. We can give them everything related to the bonds, but it's not going to be a formal committee because we don't have the members. It'd be like trying to have a board meeting with 2 members. So we can give you all the information, but it's really not meeting the requirements that we have.
Okay.
But it does increase our overall compliance by having members identified. And so as we think back to what our auditor said, we think about what legal counsel was saying when we didn't have one is, are we showing progress? Are we showing efforts being placed to grow our membership? And the answer is yes, but we're just not hitting the mark that we really want to hit.
Okay. Do you guys have anything else for that?
I don't have a question. I agree.
Not right now.
Did you say you had a question, Diana?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I can't hear. I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear either. Okay. Seeing no more questions, we will move on to our next item, the approval of global adoption of the revised first review of the revised Orchard District Board policies.
So it is a long title for this, but it is really important. So what we want to hit on is what the process that we went through. So during our winter break, our February break, we went through 665 policies. We looked at the number with it. So it's from our 0s all the way to our 9,000s. So what we're seeking tonight is for the board to do what is called a global adoption. That means that we take all those 665 policies that have been updated to reflect current language. How we went through the process, obviously Board Member Lowe helped us with the board items with it. But we read every item. We looked at what changes have occurred since the board last approved. I will say that there were some items that hadn't been approved from before 2012. There's some that were even older than that in there, which isn't uncommon in Santa Clara County. But at some point, we want to make sure board policies are all updated. So what the board would be doing tonight is updating all the board policies, recognizing that it's bringing it to current language as guidance from CSBA, or if the board already took action. So there are some items that the board has already approved in recent years, 2017, 2018. We made sure the language matched what the board had already approved and that there was no legal changes to it. Some of our board policies that the board may have actually adjusted in 2016, 17, we legally have to change to reflect current. So Title IX is an example of something that as the Title IX laws change, we have to make sure our board policies match that. So we can definitely confidently say from that February break, all these board policies are current. What happens with the global adoption is we then go back to CSBA, we tell them that the board's approved it, they will upload it to our website so that everybody can see the board policies and the changes that have occurred. What we also can do is if there's a particular item that a board member, any board member feels needs to be reviewed again, that board member during any of our board meeting planning sessions or agenda item may recommend for a board policy to be pulled and for us to discuss again. So we're never stuck with the policy that we have here, but what we can say is with the approval tonight, or if the board chooses to approve this tonight, we can say that all of our board policies are current. And that's something we certainly couldn't say coming in here. Most school districts can't say. And there's always changes. I mean, Ravina gets all the updates. I mean, there's monthly updates, there's annual updates. But now once we can get a little bit more ahead, we can bring those back back to the board as one-off or two-off policies. So with that, I'll pause. Any questions the board has, or definitely would ask our board president if she has anything to add to the process.
No, like what Jeff was saying is that we compared the two, the new policies, and they would tell us the wording, what legally needed to be changed, so we knew that those were legal, they had to be changed. And anything that was, there was board documents, so there was also you guys already had some supporting documents in there, and those supporting documents already stayed. So for instance,
When you made the updates.
those
they-
documents
yeah.
stayed. So things that you guys already had in place, like, I'm trying to think of an example.
Some of the board protocols in there.
Yeah, some of the
were
board
kept.
protocols, like attendance or things like that, that you guys had already had in the policies, those things all stayed. Those were never, those items already stayed as
Yeah.
attachments to the existing policy. We just updated the legal terminology in them. So we made sure we're very cautious to keep any existing documents that
Any
were there.
updates?
Mhm.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, is there any reasons not to do a global, I mean, like what you said, a global acceptance?
I can't foresee a reason why you'd want to do a global adoption. Otherwise, we'd have to call all 665 policies up one by one. We might be here a while on that, so I think that that might be a little bit for it. So
I don't know, I mean, nobody wants to say that long.
I don't think there's anything that were really that
But
controversial
there's no
with
other
it.
reason than,
Yeah, I
there's
can't-
really no reason.
There's
No.
not. I don't believe so.
And I will
my
tell you,
point.
if I have found anything that I felt that was controversial or anything that, I will say if there was anything I had a question about, I reached out and I said, you know, Jeff, we looked at it and we talked about it. And so I made
think,
sure.
a couple of years ago, it was, I think every board meeting, we brought a section of it, and then we went through it, and we adjusted, and we talked about it, and we talked about it until 10 o'clock sometimes. Yeah, everything is there. I think, what can you, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
policies, and nothing is changing.
No.
And the nice part is it's updated now, and so it's now just keeping up with the updates, right? So now it's just keeping up when they come up. As long as we keep in the forefront, we won't
Yeah.
have to go back and do a massive change like this for a long time.
So, do we have to
So we
approve
need
this?
a motion and a
Yes.
second. We need to do roll call on this one?
We might need to roll call. I'm sorry, we might need to roll call.
Okay, so we need a motion and a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote on this one.
Okay, a
just,
motion to approve
Motion.
this.
A motion by Catherine, second by Diane, and so Catherine?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Renee, aye. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
And then we're going to move on to item number 13. And we have one.
We do have one public comment on this item. Ms. McCarthy?
So it seems that the district is proposing to raise our administrator's salary. It looks like it's about 3% or 2%. It's a very low percent, and I by no means am saying don't increase their salaries. I think our administrators, our principal especially, very underpaid if you compare across the county. So I think that you should definitely approve this measure. But something I wanted to say, that even though the percentage is low, the amount of money that they will be paid more is greater than the amount that the teachers got for our raises. So that's something that you need to note, that, you know, when you're, oh, it's only 2%, 2% of a bigger number is, of course, more money. And then something else that I know, I've talked to Jeff about this several times, and I know that the board has heard me mention this before. We really need to be told when our administrators are not on campus. And we are not. Sometimes we are, and then sometimes we're not. And then sometimes we are, and sometimes we're not. And I think that practice should be consistent. In my time at Orchard, and I've been here a long time, this is the first set of administrators that can't just tell us when they're not going to be here. Up until we came back from COVID, we were always told at least when the principal wasn't going to be here. We didn't necessarily need to know whether or not the superintendent was going to be here. Jeff, bless his heart, is always here. So, so that's good.
So he's not here.
And he also, if he's not going to be here, if the superintendent's not going to be here, if we're dependent upon the principal, that's okay. Right now, the situation is, though, that we're very dependent on our superintendent. And when he's not here and we need something and it's an emergency, we would go to him. I would go to him. But he usually lets me know when he's not going to be here anyway. So, but we need to know, because if that emergency happens, if something happens, we're great. We can figure out how to solve lots of problems, but we need support when those things happen that you just don't, you never know when it's going to happen. And if we don't know where our administrators are, we don't have anybody to lean on. And so I'm saying this in front of the board now because I would like for you all to help our administration make it a policy that every time our principal is not here, we're told. We should know.
Reasonable. Yeah.
We should know. We don't have to know where they are, just that they're not here and that they can't help us. Your principal is not here today, they can't help you. So, yeah, that's, but go ahead and approve their raise because they need a raise. Thank you.
Just want to talk a little bit briefly about the approach until we recommend for whatever action it is. Before, if you would recall, we typically have been bringing a contract forward for the assistant principal or principal. In most districts, you have an employment contract, and then you have a salary schedule for this position, very similar to what our teachers and classified employees have. And so we wanted to mirror that practice more, that it's not about a person that sits in that position, it's about what we are paying that position itself. So what we pay our assistant principal, what we pay our principal, that's what we want to look at, and we want to make sure we stay as best we can on par in the same way we want for all of our classifications, teachers and our classified staff to stay on par, if not higher than average, in our area. We do well in some parts of it. When we talk about total health and welfare, that's a different topic, but both these positions get the same health and welfare package as any employee at Orchard. So it's the same compensation, which is why you're not really seeing that called out in a contract, because we don't really need to do that, because it all falls under the district umbrella anyway within the positions. So I just wanted the board to recognize why we've made a little bit of an adjustment how we're bringing it forward. You won't see an individual contract for them other than the original employment contract that a person has coming into the district. Other than that, this is an action item for the board tonight. I'll take any questions if there are any.
I have a little problem with that. Like Ms. Erin said, I know that we are approving a position, but the position is not in the school. So, yeah, this is a big problem. So, it's kind of, I never thought that the school is open today and there is no principal there, because the principal has to open the school. I think this is how I learned how
So
the school is.
I do think
So-
that, I think your point's there, and I think it needs to be a different agenda item. We have to be very careful that we're not talking about personnel matter in public, and that's something we do have to be mindful of. I think Ms. McCarthy's point is valid, and in her public comments, she definitely can bring that up in the way she did. I think we have to be careful and talk about a change in practice if we want, because it does relate back to evaluations and it is a personnel matter. But I'm very open to having a conversation around that.
Well, okay.
And I think too, this is not, my understanding is, even if we approve this, it doesn't necessarily mean that an assistant principal, a principal will automatically get the next
Oh, that's a good
increase
point.
because
I
it's
know,
all
I know.
based on their
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
evaluation. So let's say they're at step 1 and then they get their evaluation, they go to step 2. If they don't get, just like a superintendent, if they don't get a satisfactory evaluation, then they're not going to get that raise to the next year.
Yeah, I know how the schedule works, but it should be something about the policy. Yeah, I think I agree with that the policy
So we can
should
bring
state
that back as another item at another time.
We'll make a note of that.
What?
Vote on this later.
We'll do, so that's a perfect example of, we look at our board policies that we have, if there's an item that are bring back, so that's something Ravina can note right now. What we can talk about again at the agenda planning, but we can at least start that work of noting it.
A policy around.
Policy on administration.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can bring that back and then we talk about agenda items.
sure. Thank you.
Can we get a-
Thank you.
We're going to talk about a policy when we
An
talk about
admin
agenda.
policy.
A policy. But this topic is just about the
Yeah.
salary schedule.
Yeah.
It's not about,
Yeah, this is just a schedule.
Yeah.
I understand that, yes.
I mean, I agree that our we want to make sure our staff, all of our staff is getting paid what they should be. And so, I'm okay, as Ms. McCarthy stated, that we should definitely consider.
Yeah,
this.
by all means, of course, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the salary schedule.
Second.
Motion by Renee, second by Catherine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Great, thank you. We do have one public comment on our declaration of need item, number 14, is Ms. McCarthy.
You should just stay up there.
If you guys would give me a wait for it, put it right there.
I wouldn't normally comment on a declaration of need for fully qualified educators. But I felt it just kind of goes with the theme of of all of my comments this evening. When I was looking through this, I'm used to seeing like 1 or 2, but I think we have like 7. That's too many. That's too many. I know that there's a shortage of teachers, but I think also something that has happened with Orchard that we really need to start thinking about is that because we've had lower than average county raises the last couple of years, we're now really low on the totem pole as to paying our educators. And so that is not helping us to hire the fully qualified teachers. But there is a mass exodus, and it's expensive to live here, and all of those things. But we need to do better, because that's too many unqualified teachers. Qualified teachers are having a hard time in the classroom right now. And when you have teachers who are not necessarily fully credentialed, although I think some of these are going to be qualified, right?
Correct.
Yes, some of these will be qualified, so it won't be a total of 7. Yeah. I mean, you should approve this. You should definitely approve this because we need to be fully staffed, but we need to look at these numbers and make note of what it means. Thank you.
I just would echo, it's definitely not going to be 7. We actually have a contract out for a math teacher right now, but what's really important is order for us to ever move forward with someone who's not single subject or fully credentialed in the subject area in which they're teaching, the board has to approve that item. And so we never want to be caught in a place where we didn't bring the board the proper declaration of need, because then as a district, we wouldn't be able to hire someone in that category. We are in the process right now of looking at all the openings we have. We've obviously been able to hire a psychologist. We have an offer out for a math teacher right now. We don't have any multiple subject openings currently, and we're sitting, I'm sorry, I think that was my microphone. Is that better? I know Ms. Hale's gonna have a little bit better. Nope, sorry, go back away a little bit more. We are gonna try and make sure we have all our positions filled, and we're marketing and going out there with all the resources about why we're a great district, but our only opening, hopefully after a math teacher comes back to us, will be our special ed position. Can we turn my mic down just a little bit, Steve? Thank you. Thank you. All right. So this is an action item for board approval.
So, am I understanding correctly, you're saying we should only have one outstanding item that hopefully isn't get filled?
I would hope that we don't have to use this at all.
Okay.
But we need to be prepared for if we can't find somebody in one of the credentialing needs that we have.
Got it.
It allows us more flexibility is what it does, to ensure that we're fully staffed, because if we start the year without a full staff, that means a substitute teacher in there, and that's not a great way for our students to start the year.
Do that.
This is only the discussion, right?
No, it's action item.
Yeah, it's action item?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I make a motion.
A motion by Diana. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Did you have a question, Kathleen?
I'll second.
Okay. All the, motion carries.
Or no, yeah, makes sense.
And then we're going to go on to the board resolution item.
So this is discussion action. It's not something that the board has to choose to take part in tonight. But there's been a lot of talk in our county recently about how a county superintendent is hired for the position. And as this board knows, there has been some controversy lately. There's been some long meetings at the county office. And why we're bringing it forward is Orchard is very well supported by the County Office of Ed. We obviously have a small district contract with them where they provide us services. They support us with professional development. They do fingerprinting when we hire someone. And so what I'm bringing forward tonight is a potential board resolution. Each school district in our county, there's 31 of them, can choose to take part in this or choose not to take part in it. But the conversation that's taking place at the county level, or that's being encouraged to take place at the county level, is that the county superintendent position move away from being hired by the board to being voted by people through an election process. And so there's 58 counties right now in the state of California, and I believe it's 52 or 53 out of the 58 counties hold elections for the county superintendent position. I will say that our county superintendent is also very supportive of this resolution. So I should have started off with that, and it came up at our superintendent meetings. And so Because we have never done something like this during my time here, I'm sure the board has taken resolutions before like this, but just not during my time. And in talking to our board president, we felt it was important to bring this to all of you tonight, have a chance to take a look at it, ask questions, and then we don't even have to take action on it tonight, something that we could always bring back. But we would be submitting this as part of school districts and other school districts in this county that are approving this resolution. If the board's ready to take action tonight, you certainly have the ability to do so, but I don't want the board to feel like you have to do this tonight because it is a little different topic. And so let me pause there, take any questions you may have, if I can answer them. It is 53 out of 58 counties hold an election for the county superintendent position.
And I will say that I am very much in support of this. And the reason I say this is that in talking to other board members in other areas, you have 7 people making a decision for all of the county as far as the superintendent goes. And if you look, 53 counties in the state of their voters pick that person. And 7 people get to decide the fate of that person.
Yeah.
So the county office superintendent does an amazing job, supports all of us, but maybe the board sees something that they're not happy with. They get to decide the fate of that person.
Yeah.
When you can ask all the districts around, and that person does an amazing job. And so I personally feel that the voters should decide on that position, and as a school district, I feel that gives our school district a stronger voice in the person that is in charge of our overall county office of education. So I just want you guys to know my opinion on this.
Yeah, but I agree with that, but then the voters also should be involved and educated about what this can affect the school, affect their education and everything. So a lot of people, especially in our area, they would not know at all. So I agree with you. But
I think too, they have to, they'd have to run a campaign, just like a mayor has to run,
Yeah.
just like a supervisor has to
pool.
run, just like the person running for the California Department of Education office.
yeah, if somebody is running for the mayor, somebody has to vote for a mayor. They know we want this, we want park, we want whatever, just like more socially discussed. But for this position, maybe you and I affect us, our work, our school, no, but the parents and the voters, most probably, they wouldn't know who this person is. Yeah, I agree that should not be 7 people decide whether this person should be there or not. Probably they wouldn't know also the impact of the work that that person is doing. But sure, everybody should vote. I agree with that, like everybody.
The voters should obviously have a choice.
Yeah.
Because it's so limiting. And you get a wider range of selection. More people would probably run. And you might get a more qualified superintendent.
And if the person that's there, you feel that person is doing a great job, and everyone sees that person's doing a great job,
So that makes sense. I'm surprised that it's not already like that.
Well, that's why 53 counties out of 58 have it that way, right? You'd be surprised. We're a big county. We're surprised we don't have it.
Surprised.
Okay, I have a motion to approve this.
So we have a motion by Diane, a second by Catherine. This one we do have to do a roll call vote, and I think I have to say, don't I need to say?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Catherine?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Renee? Yes. We have no noes, no abstentions, and we have absent Carl and Jeff.
Perfect. Thank you. Were you able to get that, Ravina? You all set? Great. Thank you, board.
And then we're on to item number 16.
You do have one public comment from Ms.
Ms.
McCarthy.
McCarthy?
Improve. Newell. Why are we doing this right now? Why? So
Hello.
why are we doing this?
I want to preface my comment by saying that nothing I'm saying in any way should be construed as not liking Jeff Bowman, because I do. The things that I'm going to say have to do with fiscal responsibility and Orchard School. And also, you know, respect for teachers, which is my theme for this evening. As it is Teachers Appreciation Day. One of the things I did want to point out that the salary increase, although a lower percentage, is greater than any teacher received by about 2 times. So there's that. But I'm not saying that he should not get that, because currently he's the lowest paid superintendent in the county, and we don't want that. We don't want him to be, and this will help with that. Some of the problems that I found in the actual contract, though, there's a section where it talks about receiving health benefits or not receiving health benefits and being paid if he doesn't receive the health benefits. A fancy side note for that, classified receives money if they don't take the benefits. Seems our administrators are going to receive money if they don't take the benefits. But the teachers don't have that, and we've always been told no. So, happy Teachers Appreciation Day. That in the contract, though, it says $7,500, but it also says $5,000. And so that amount is not clear in the contract, and that needs to be clarified, because otherwise, who knows? And then also, I'm extremely troubled by the 12-month buyout. I think that's excessive. When you're looking at a salary of close to $250,000, if the board decides not to keep Jeff on, the school district would then have to pay him all of that money. And that translates to about 2.5% to 3% salary increase for the people that work here. I don't think guaranteeing one person a $250,000 buyout is fiscally responsible for a school district our size. In the past, our board has always negotiated a 6-month buyout. And I think that that would be more conservative. Now, again, I don't want you to think that I am saying that I don't like Jeff or anything. I'm saying that a school district that's complaining about their finances shouldn't be saying, hey, we're going to give this person $250,000 if the board decides that they don't want them here anymore. You know, the teachers are not responsible for whether or not the superintendent is here or not here. And you're also looking at a board election where 2 of you are up for re-election this November. And that could very much change the face of the board. So making that decision to pay somebody $250,000, if you decide to let them go, really, I just don't feel comfortable with that. I would never have felt comfortable with that, especially when, you know, it's just a lot of money. So that's what I have to say about that. And I hope that the board will renegotiate that contract before you sign it. Thank you. But, you know, you should pay him more.
What? What did she say?
You should pay him more.
What was, I have a question. What was the previous buyout? I never heard this 12 months. It's just, it's supposed to be 6 months, no? What was the previous one?
I wasn't here when you guys did his last contract, so I didn't see his last contract.
This is very new to me. I basically, I haven't heard it anywhere that.
I will say most school districts do a 12-month
They
buyout.
do? 12 months?
I don't think we've ever had a buyout before. Have we?
You had with each of your previous superintendents as well.
With who?
You had it with each of the previous superintendents as well.
Each of them?
Different
Each
term
of the
limits.
superintendent?
So California law only allows a certain period of time. There's a max number of 16 months that a buyout can happen in any executive contract.
So I want to clarify one thing, if we
Yeah.
can make a correction. It should be the $7,500 on the
Yeah,
benefits.
we made the correction on that.
So if we can we make that correction?
Yes, yeah.
I thought Jeff was gonna, say something about that.
He can't. We
he
have
can't.
to, we have to make that.
Okay. Because it's representing himself,
Yeah.
okay.
So if we can,
But okay,
So was this-
I heard that the administrator classified they can have that, if they don't have insurance, they can take that money, but the
Yes.
teachers do not.
That's something we can't talk about that right now.
Oh, we can't talk about that. Oh, okay. So what can we talk about right now?
We can only talk about this contract, that we can talk about that next time in negotiations.
Okay. Oh, that is part of the negotiation.
Yes.
things. Oh, okay, sorry. So I
Shouldn't
have
we do
a,
our evaluation before we do the contract?
Well, this is based on his evaluation that we did last year.
I know. Do we have to vote? I mean, I'd like to think about this and look at it. Can we not vote on this tonight? I'd like to really look at it.
Well, I would ask that as board members that we pay attention to the weekly Friday memos that he sends out, because he did send this to all of us 2 weeks ago for us to look over, and then it did come out in our board packet on Friday, so we could review it and be prepared for the meeting. You know, I'm open to the 6 months on the, you know,
yeah.
if that's, you know.
Well,
I am.
That may be true, but I'd just like to look at it a little bit more. I don't know, I think Jeff, you're doing a great job, but it's just, I'd like to look at it more. I'd like to, and also it'd be nice if everybody was here, but they're not. Well, that's my thought. I'd like to, we can vote on it next time. I don't know.
So what are we voting on? What did you say about the 6 months?
Well, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if that's, you know, if you guys aren't happy with the 12 months, then I'm just having conversations.
Yeah. I think, I don't remember that we have the Orchard School, again, I'm talking about this position and it's not personal. I don't remember I have ever seen that the buyout is 12 months.
I don't remember it being this
Maybe
high.
I missed that, I don't know, but we never had anybody have received that type of funds. Why? Too bad Luis is not here, he remembers everything. Do you agree with the 6 months?
I'm okay with 6
Yeah?
months. We have
I
to see
agree.
if he's okay with 6 months. It's his contract.
Yeah, I agree with 6 months because it's more close to the reasonable.
Yeah,
Would you be,
I think the year is too long.
would you be okay with 6 months?
Let me think. I guess
I am okay with 6 months.
So wait a minute. Basically, I can't imagine if we have a problem.
If we basically fire him,
Which one? Okay.
then
Anyone?
he gets basically 6 months of we get basic 6 months severance.
But if it's for cause, it's nothing.
For what? If
For
it's what?
cause. So like he did something.
Oh, of course. I mean, like, yeah, he,
I can hit on that part. So in any executive cabinet contract, so CBO, assistant superintendents, if there's anything related to illegal activities, financial, egregious errors, those types of things.
yeah, then you're,
It's a for cause.
Yes,
And so
you
it doesn't
forfeit.
matter what your buyout
So
is.
when is,
That's a forfeit.
when is just the buyout? Just when, what,
The
how?
contract is through.
When so it's whenever a board decides that they no longer want that person employed
Yeah, but.
for no reason. So they give no rationale, there's nothing illegal, just.
Just
they
that
choose-
not renewing
I mean, you
the
can't be
contract.
fired
So
at
choosing
will.
to part ways is how it would be. So if you came to a board meeting and you said, we no longer want you to be superintendent, at that point, that's when that would kick in.
Oh, that is, then,
That's-
in that point, if just all of a sudden today I decide, I come to the board, I say, okay, I don't need a superintendent anymore, then I am responsible because we approved the contract, we did this, and then that person, then, I never told him or them that, this is something wrong with this, the contract, or whatever, and then all of a sudden, I think the board has to take responsibility to study that before, then that this is not fair to that position, that person of the superintendent. What do you think?
I think so. I think, yeah, I mean, it's all about how you communicate with each other and
Yeah.
you come into a meeting and it's, yeah.
So it also works the same way if you showed up on August 1st and said you don't have a job at the end of the year, that
Yeah.
person would be responsible to do all the work, and they
Yeah.
just know that's not being continued.
Yeah, also there are some
So it's
times
still
that the superintendent can go apply for a job, right, or no?
That's a different section
That's a
within the
different
contract,
section.
that
Okay.
if there was another job, and you go for it, you end up in
Final.
the final, thank you, the final two candidates, then there's a process to inform the board at that point. Which is pretty standard. I will say the contract that we brought forward is pretty standard language for most superintendents in the state of California.
Computer just died.
Here, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Continue.
okay.
It is pretty standard, I mean, based on Lozano Smith putting it together.
So if that is standard for overall, general,
Well,
yeah.
well,
I
there's certain
think-
things like the financial side of it, like if we had an egregious error if I had an egregious error of something fiscally related, embezzlement, things like that language is in the contract. It legally has to be in the contract that way.
Yeah,
So there's aspects of the contract that are legal compliance, which the
Okay.
board has to make sure is there, and those pieces are in the
then
contract.
in that case.
And then
if-
the for cause pieces has to be called out in that section, which it is.
Yeah, I think because of the nature of the job and the position, I think, yeah, it should be this much because they can't just go like, okay, I'm here, I'm a superintendent.
Well, and
I
it
have
take-
no
yeah, it
job,
could
and
take
I
up to
wanna-
a year
They
for
have
them
to
to get
wait
another
until
job,
next
yeah.
year, right? So that is, okay, I make a motion to approve that.
Okay, well, we have to ask him if he accepts it first.
Oh,
well, and that's true too.
We have to make sure if he was willing to
Yeah,
pick
you
it.
can, yep, that's
We'll have to see.
So
So would you change the 12 months to 6 months?
So I will recognize that the other contract that we have for executive cabinet is higher than that right now.
what was that?
And I am still going to be one of the lowest paid superintendents in this county, and I will have the lowest buyout in the county.
No,
So-
I am making the, which one did you say?
6 months.
No, I'm making a motion to do the 12 months.
Oh, for the 12 months, so you're making
Yeah.
a motion to approve the contract as is?
When this is the position, the job, it's not just like somebody, a board member, they want to end their services and they can't just go out there and apply for a job, and the job will be next year. It's not going to be in next 6 months or within 6 months, correct?
Right, it's harder for them to
Yeah,
go
it's
out and get a
harder
job.
for them because So in that case, because of the nature of the school system or the way they have set it up, I am making the motion for the 12 months.
Okay.
Oh, so you want
So you leave the contract as is?
to leave it as is?
Yes.
I'd like to change it to 6, but then there's only the 3 of us. So that, I don't
And
know
then
what
to
we do with
Jeff's
that.
point, the contract we approved.
No, I understand, and
Okay.
he's the lowest, you're the lowest paid in them.
And then the one for.
But it's it's one school, one district. I mean, I am not trying to be rude, but one school,
taking
one
that one.
district. And there is a difference.
But if it has been, how has
I mean,
been the
to me,
contract
there's
for the
a
others?
huge
The other,
difference.
I will
I mean,
send.
I am sorry, there's other, I mean,
How has been
I don't
so
mean to
far?
be rude, but it's a small, we don't have unlimited funds. We
I
don't.
will say the other small school districts
No,
have.
no, for us, for Orchard.
I don't know your other
Yeah.
contracts. I will say
Then
the
so-
other small
so
school
this
districts
is-
have
this
the
is
12 months.
just the
in Santa
discussion we
Clara
are
County.
talking about. I don't think ever has happened.
I mean, we
So,
probably,
for
this
that
is
reason-
hypothetical, probably never be, I mean, I don't think it'll probably ever be an issue. I really don't.
I will say too, one
I
thing.
honestly don't, but I
I think
just
so,
think because
too.
we have to think about protecting ourselves, protecting the school. That is my point,
The
is
one-
just protecting our finances.
And I
Because we're supposed to be, that's
I
what we're
get, I
protectors
understand that
of.
too. But I think too, to look at is, we want people to be here long-term. We
Well,
want
definitely.
longevity in our.
Absolutely.
and that's something that I think that when you are trying to get people to come into our administrative positions, the one thing you hear over and over is that we don't make our positions, even our teaching positions, as Erin mentioned earlier, our positions aren't enticing people to want to come here. And we have to start somewhere making that and wanting people to want to stay here. Like, if we don't,
I've heard that so much, and I think this is, I mean, though, I do think we are. I just think it's not, it's just there's the finance. We have limited funds, and that's what it is. But also, it's one school, K through 8. You don't have to drive, you're right there. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
no, it's fine. I'm in a second Diane's motion.
Yeah. And I explain more about that because this has never happened. This is for the sake of the discussion and anticipation. I don't think ever will happen because there's evaluation, there are reviews, there are so many steps to that. And then if you bypass all of them and then you all of a sudden decide, okay, I'm not happy with this situation. I want to end this person's services, let's say in April or May. In the middle of the year, there is no position open. It's not, they can go find another job right there. So whether it's good for us or bad for us or good for that person or bad, but this is the commitment, I think, like you said, the school can make and then be diligent about.
I mean, so basically I have to say yes because.
You don't have to say
No,
yes.
I mean, the thing is, I do appreciate Jeff, and if I say no, that's a big problem.
But you don't have to say yes. You have a voice and you have
But
a
I'm
right
just
to make
saying
your
that
voice.
I think, what will happen if I don't, for 6 months?
Okay, if you are
No, but, okay,
superintendent,
wait a minute. So if I don't say yes, what will happen?
Well, we call the vote,
Yeah, we have a vote, and then Jeff could maybe think of leaving. What would happen, Jeff? So say. It's over the 6 months. What do you think? What would you think?
Well, I think.
it's fair to put him on.
I think
I'm
that's
just
a hard,
wondering
that's a
if
hard
it's
question
just-
to
this is
answer.
a
I
discussion.
all I can simply share is the perspective on the contracts. I can share a perspective of what 31 contracts look like in this county.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Jeff.
Oh, sorry,
Speak up.
all I can share is a perspective of.
You turn your mic
I
off.
turned my mic off.
Okay.
No, it's off again.
Steve coming off.
You were really loud for a second.
I mean, all I can offer is what the perspective, my perspective as a superintendent in this county, my perspective on what other superintendent contracts look like. You know, in terms of the work, you're right, it is a single school district. I would say most superintendents in the single school districts write more plans than those in a larger district, and I
Well,
will say
probably that's true.
that is part of it.
Sure.
But I'm not to diminish what a superintendent. It's not. I'm not here to talk about my practice versus that of my colleagues. I think everyone has a lot on their plate. I think every position in education right now has a lot on them. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about my work compared to somebody else's. I will say it was hard coming into this district. I've never had a 6-month buyout before for any contract that I've had for the last 7 years.
So you've always had a 1 year, a year buyout?
I've always had 12 months, and even some of them were talking about before I left to come here about moving it to 16 months. But that's neither here nor there, because it's what the board, what you as a board choose, and what you think is right for the district. I will say 6 months is extremely low. I would say if you talk to AXA or any of them that review contracts for superintendent, they would tell me I shouldn't sign a contract for 6 months.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I mean, I would tell you that. Most attorneys, and I don't use an attorney being here in the small district for it on the personal side of it, but I do have AXA review the contracts, and they told me last time that it was a problem going for 6 months. But I wanted to be here, and I still want to be here. I mean, that part hasn't changed, and so it is a factor for me. I do think it's hard to have superintendent jobs. There's only 31 of them in this county, and I've seen what some superintendents are going through right now with districts in their position, and this is more about wanting to be somewhere and making sure there's commitment there on that side of it too.
Okay, so I vote. Do I need to vote?
No, you guys have any more questions?
No, I don't have
well,
a
I
question.
don't-
I want to make a motion for 12 months.
I guess, listening to that,
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll call the vote. Start with Catherine.
aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Renee, aye. So we'll approve the superintendent contract 3-0 with the change to the typo. And then the next item, we're going to go to item 17, superintendent report.
So we've heard a lot about it tonight. It is Staff Teacher Appreciation Week. We are very lucky to have the teachers that we do and the staff members that choose to be here every day. I know the board's heard me talk about it before. I know our staff's heard me talk about it. The teaching and education profession is not the same that it was 10 years ago. And I would challenge anyone that says it is. What educators face now on the political side, the social emotional side, the behavioral side is so far greater than it was certainly when I started off
2 years ago.
in a ELD campus. It is not the same. And it doesn't make it bad or doesn't make the profession bad. That's not what I'm talking about. It just makes the profession harder than I think than it used to be. And I think it's a good thing because I think the demand is placed on us, but I think sometimes the respect of the work that people do every day sometimes gets lost. And I think the one thing that's been refreshing about coming to Orchard is I get to see teachers every single day doing what they do best, or instructional aides supporting our kids what they do best. And I think it's important that we acknowledge it both here publicly, financially for teachers. Certainly as county, it needs to look different. The funding model with the state needs to change. Because we really need to keep people in the profession. And that goes from our certificated side, classified side, management side. We have a huge cliff coming on the management side right now. There's just not enough people going into it. We have a huge cliff on the teacher side. There's not enough people going into it. And then on our classified side as well. I mean, you see districts right now posting positions, 30, 40 instructional aid positions out there. That feels like so much for our profession to handle. And yet we have a job to do every day with our kids. And so do want to acknowledge our staff and just the time and energy they put into each day. And then just a couple quick updates. Today spent 3 hours working with one of our coaches today on our LCAP. We were able to get 5 sections drafted. We're trying to get it all prepared so our ILT on Monday can take a look at it. This is based on the feedback from our educational partners, based on the feedback that we have from our staff learning day. Again, this is a unique year because we're starting back over with our goals, with the exception of one goal we'll carry forward, but there'll be brand new metrics, brand new actions associated with it. So it really is it's a brand new writing assignment, so to speak. And so there's 20 sections that we have to work through. And then the other piece that we're waiting on is obviously Luis, who is in jury duty, will be in jury as a juror for some time right now. But he's actually working on that tonight. That's why he's not here. Chanel, I talked to him, I don't know, 4 or 4:30 today, just telling him what we needed for the LCAP. So we are working on that. And then just the final piece of it is, had a chance to meet with Chris Norwood again, who's a board member of Milpitas, but I met with him based on his nonprofit that he helps with. It's a tutoring club. And we might be eligible to bring in some tutoring here as part of a grant-funded program. And so we might need to approve something between now and that meeting. I will let you all know. But we also have the early June meeting, but we're seeing if there's resources that could be provided to us because we're a partner of DataZone through the county office that might make us eligible for it. So if we can bring it in, we would love to bring in additional tutoring just on the intervention need that our students have. So,
Great.
thank you.
Oh, it's okay. Our next item, future meeting and agenda items. We have our 2 back-to-back meetings in June. Instead of doing them back-to-back days, we're going to do them June 11th and June 18th, and then July 23rd. If we have any topics for future meetings, if you just email those to Jeff or myself. And we do have... Yeah, if, are you guys okay if we put the board policy to talk about...
Let me see future board agenda.
Oh, it's nothing on there right now.
Board policy when?
The board policy around admin on campus and notification for staff, the recommendation from Ms. McCarthy, and working on some type of policy that we can put in place.
Okay.
Would you guys be okay with us bringing that to the July, bringing something forward on the July meeting?
I am not going to be there in July 23rd.
That'd be fine. That'd be great.
Okay.
We can bring it as a first read too, so if
Yeah.
you don't have everybody
You
there.
can bring it as a what?
A first
We can
read.
bring it as a
It's so
first
hard
read,
to hear.
Ravina, and we can give the option.
It's
for
really
it to
hard to
be
hear, Jeff.
approved.
We'll bring it as a first read to that meeting, and then we can just bring it, and then if we need to bring it back for another meeting for an approval, we can do that as well.
Okay, sounds good.
And then if you have any other topics or items, we can bring those forward to Jeff or myself. And then we'll go ahead and go with board reports. We'll start with you, Catherine.
Well, happy Teachers Appreciation Day to everyone. Let's see. Well, I hope you had a nice lunch. Did you get lunch today?
Tomorrow.
We didn't do anything for them. We need to do that. And also, I'm looking forward, I'm not able to go to the play this weekend, but I was thinking for those who can't, are you filming it? Are they going to film it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it? Can you watch it if you don't go? I mean, will it be, they could have a family night, people go who can't see it.
You can send it, right? As soon as it's sent, yeah.
You know, you could have a family evening, people bring food, something, raise a little money for those who couldn't go.
Are you gonna be there?
I'll be there.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I can't be there this weekend, unfortunately. But, all right, well, it was a really fun meeting.
We learned a lot.
And
Yeah,
thank you,
we
everyone,
did all
for
about
coming.
money, bonds, millions, dollars, and
And,
this
yeah,
and
and
that.
teachers,
And teaching, yeah.
it's never ending for poor teachers. And the behavior of children is, sometimes there's no words. Most of them are lovely, but sometimes the behavior is extremely more than challenging.
Yes.
Now you know.
Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
happy Teachers Day and week, and I really, the way I see Orchard teachers, they're like, at least for me, part of the family. So I wish you all the best, not this week, not today, but every day should be Teachers Appreciation Day, because you raise our kids, and you teach them the basics, the foundations. So I, to this date, appreciate all Orchard school teachers, all staff, everybody. So thank you for that. And have a great week and have a great year.
And I'm going to kudo on what they all said. Happy Teachers Week, Teachers Appreciation Day. Our school wouldn't be nearly the school it is without each and every one of you. Thank you to you guys who come to our meetings every single time, and your feedback and input is so grateful. I, appreciate the time and effort you guys take to give it to us. And some things just on the horizon. We have we're doing some work on trying to find ways to get teachers into these small schools. We're trying to find ways to that's our action right now in our little small group that I'm working on with small school districts. So we're trying to find the ways of how do we entice people to come to these schools. So hopefully we can figure out what it is and make them want to be teachers. We know it's not easy, and you guys are there for our kids, so we appreciate it. I think that's it. I think it's been a long night. It's been a long week. It's been a long month.
They have to go back to work tomorrow.
Yes. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 8:20.